Hello students of class 9. See, this is your English literature textbook, treasure trove, a collection of SSC poems and short stories. In the last video, I have taught poem number 5, television. Now today I am going to take short stories. Let's see story number 4, Hearts and Hands. See, this is the picture of story number 4, Hearts and Hands, written by O. Henry. Here you will find two hands that are scuffed. Here, the two passengers in a seat nearby had heard most of the conversation. Said one of them, "That's Marcel's a good sort of jam. Some of these Western fellows are all right. Pretty young to hold an office like that, isn't he?" asked the other. "Young," exclaimed the first speaker. "Why, oh, didn't you catch on?" "She did. You ever know an officer to handcuff a prisoner to his right hand?" Now, before starting this story, we will discuss about the story writer here, O. Henry. William Sidney Potter was an American writer who wrote under the pen name O. Henry. His short stories are well known for their ready wit, gentle humor, and surprise endings. His story, Hearts and Hands, describes the chance encounter on a train between two acquaintances, Miss Fairchild and Mr. Aston. The situation turns awkward when Miss Fairchild notices that Mr. Aston is handcuffed to a grim-looking man. The man intervenes to save Aston from embarrassment and prevent the girl from discovering the truth about him. It is only through the observation of their fellow passengers that the reader is made aware of the real nature of the relationship between the two men handcuffed to each other. See, this is the picture of the story writer O. Henry. Before starting the text, let's see about the story. Hearts and Hands revolves around three main characters and two minor characters who reveal the irony at the end of the story. A surprise ending makes the story interesting. The story is set in a train to Denver. An elegant and elegantly attired woman named Miss Fairchild is seated on the train when two men arrive and take the seat facing her. It quickly becomes apparent that the woman knows one of them. She speaks to the man, Mr. Aston, and then she is surprised to discover that he is handcuffed to the man seated beside him. As Aston greets the woman, he raises his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet. To the left, one of his companions, the man with Aston, senses Aston's embarrassment and gives an explanation. He says that Mr. Aston, the Marshal, and the two are headed for Leavenworth prison. It's 7 years for counterfeiting, he adds. The young woman continues to chat with her acquaintance, but she continues to stare at the handcuffs. Don't you worry about them, miss, said the other man. All marshals handcuff themselves to their prisoners to keep them from getting away. Mr. Aston knows his business. As the two men stand to go to the smoker car, the young woman bites Mr. Aston goodbye. All the while, the two passengers seated nearby have listened to the conversation. One says that he seems too young to be a marshal. The other says Mr. Aston is not a marshal, he is the counterfeiter. Did you ever know an officer had to handcuff a prisoner to his right hand? This ending surprises the readers and makes the story interesting. Let's see. On page number 69, here's story number 4, Hearts and Hands, written by O. Henry. At Denver, there was an influx of passengers into the coaches on the eastbound B&M Express. This is the name of the train. In one coach there sat a very pretty young woman dressed in elegant taste and surrounded by all the luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. Among the newcomers were two young men, one of handsome presence with a bold, frank countenance and manner. The other, a ruffled, glum-faced person, heavily built and roughly dressed. The two were handcuffed together. As they passed down the aisle of the coach, the only vacant seat offered was reserved on facing the attractive young woman. Here, the linked couple seated themselves. The young woman's glance fell upon them with a distant, swift disinterest, then with a lovely smile brightening her countenance and a tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks. She held out a little grey gloved hand. When she spoke, her voice, full, sweet, and deliberate, proclaimed that its owner was accustomed to speak and be heard. Well, Mr. Aston, if you will make me speak first, I suppose I must. Don't you ever recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? The younger man roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice, seemed to struggle with a slight embarrassment which he threw off instantly, and then clasped her fingers with his left hand. It's Miss Fairchild, he said. With a smile, I will ask you to excuse the other hand. It's otherwise engaged at the present. Okay, students. Now I want to stop it here, and very soon you will find in another video the story will continue, and this